Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, the new moon is coming very quickly. Here where I am, the new moon will be happening, will arrive tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. But probably by the time I get this edited and uploaded, the new moon will have already come and gone. And so this is the last time we're going to see this set of oracle cards and tarot cards. Yeah, I change them out every new moon. So we've got the last reading with this set of cards for a while, my Korean decks. And so if you are a new visitor here, just in case, this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards in a spread to explore topics related to living an intentional life, for intentional living. So we've got a spread already beautifully laid out. Let me show you. That is a beautiful, beautiful set of cards, isn't it? I'll be sorry to see them go. Well, they won't exactly be going for me. They will still be on my shelves, and I can use them anytime I want to because they are so pretty. But I'll be sorry to see them out of circulation for a while. But I've got a whole new set of beautiful decks lined up for you for the next reading after this one for next week. So stay tuned. Beautiful decks. But if you're curious about these decks, who created them, where you can get them, there will be a short clip at the end of this video that gives you the information about the deck and the creator. And below the video, in the description box, as usual, there will be links if you want to go check out the decks yourself and perhaps buy one or all of them. Now, they are all still available. You might need help with one of them. If you want to get one of the decks, you might need help because I think it's only available here in Korea. And I'll be willing to help you with that purchase if you are interested. But okay, so all that information is in the description box. We just saw this beautiful spread. And if you are a first-time visitor, let me give you a brief outline. The three cards in the center are oracle cards from an oracle deck, and they give us the main idea of the entire spread. They're the thesis statement. And then around those three cards, you saw four sets of other cards. In each one of those sets, there is an inquiry card, a card with a question on it, and then that question is answered by one card from two different decks of tarot decks. So that's what we're doing. We'll start with the oracle, the thesis, and then we'll move into the questions with the answers, sort of like an essay. So, friends, let's look at the oracle cards. For the oracle cards you saw from left to right, we went from crane spirit, and you saw this beautiful bird flying up into the sky. And then we have the divine feminine, and then on the right-hand side there was reincarnation. Beautiful image, right? All of them beautiful images. The central card is a sigil card. There are 7 sigils in this deck, and this is one of the 7. And the sigil cards are less illustrated. They're more for the symbol itself. Now, you saw that in this spread, there was that central sigil, and then the 2 side cards, the figures, one of them bird, one of them human, were flying up and away from that sigil. So, for me, that indicates that this sigil is the central idea of the central thesis statement. So we'll begin with the sigil, and then we'll go to the 2 figures flying up and away as if they're carrying that idea, that message, that sigil with them up into their new life. And that's basically what the idea of this set of oracle cards is. We start with the divine feminine. Now, in Korean, you will see in that little box, it says 천상 선녀. Yeah? 천상 선녀. Now, the best translation that I can come up with for this would be heavenly fairy. Now, most fairies in Korean tradition are female, maybe demi-goddesses, kinds of things. They're translated into fairy, but they seem more like demi-goddesses to me. And so, 천상, heavenly, 선녀, yeah, fairies or demi-goddesses. And there are a whole slew of myths in Korea about humans' interactions with these fairy goddesses. Yeah, there's one where the 7 heavenly fairy goddesses come down to bathe in a pool regularly, and a mere lowly, I think it's a huntsman, with trees. Do you call them someone who cuts down trees, a lumberjack? Discovers them and falls in love with them, and so there's a whole story about that. Now, there are several stories about these divine feminine figures coming down and interacting with humans. And so for this deck, this is the divine feminine. And personally, now I'm just talking personally, I think we're about ready to get beyond the idea of gender. Yeah, there is male and female, which is, rather than gender, I would call that sexual expression. Yeah, there are male bodies and there are female bodies, and there are some bodies which are a combination of the two. But mostly we have male bodies and female bodies, and some female bodies are surgically transformed into male bodies, and some male bodies are surgically transformed into female bodies. But there is not gender, but there is there is sex to the body. Gender is unfortunately so wrapped up with sex that I think it may be impossible to separate them. Now, what we have traditionally called male and female are not a binary thing, but directions on a scale of behaviors and self-expression. And one person has all of that within them. And having all of that within them, we can each express ourselves at any point of that spectrum that we care to express at any time. Now, often we have a more habitual end of that spectrum. Yeah? Some people behave primarily in a way that traditionally we would have called masculine, or traditionally we could have called feminine, irregardless of the body that they are in, whether they are in a male body or a female body or a trans body or a combined hermaphroditic body. Yeah? But because we got this masculine, feminine attached to male, female, I think we need to stop with the divine masculine and divine feminine and perhaps give other vocabulary to it. So that instead of being divine feminine, maybe we'd use the more yin-yang, the receptive giving, now active passive. Now maybe we can come up with a new language for that. Yeah? The divine receptive, the divine productive, maybe. So that's just where I'm coming from, so you know how I'm reading this card. Now, the divine feminine to me, instead of being feminine, it's the divine, in Korean, of yang, or the divine yin of yin-yang in Chinese. Yeah? It's the receptive, also sometimes considered passive, side of the Taoist circle. of energies. And so the divine element of receptivity is also, I think, unfortunately, often so strongly associated with the passive stance that I think we have limited our concept of receptivity a lot. And I mentioned this in another place recently, but I'm reminded of the idea of Buddhist monks, especially in Southeast Asia. Now, the Buddhist monks take their bowls, their rice bowls, and they go out into their community. They walk through their community, not their community at their temple. Now, usually they reside in a temple or along with a temple, but out into the community of non-monks, of regular, ordinary folk, people. They carry their bowls out into that community, and people know that they're coming, so they go out to meet the monks with foodstuffs, with rice, with things to add to their rice. And the monks receive that offering, and that's what they will eat for the day. However, it's the idea of receptivity, certainly, but to me that's far from being passive receptivity. It's a very active receptivity. The monks aren't staying in their temple, sitting with their empty bowl, hoping that somebody would come by and give them food. They're going out into the world. They're not begging for it. They're not asking for it, but they're walking through the world open to reception. But they're walking through the world open to reception. They're not sitting passively. They're walking through the world. There's an active side to receptivity. There's an active side to our ability to create in a more natural, a more a less structured, more natural, more complex, deeper, wider. Now, these are things that I think of with the traditional divine feminine: deepness, wideness, naturalness, receptive, and sometimes passive. But I don't think we want to keep that passive idea here. We want to be actively receptive, actively deep, actively wide. Now, we want to stretch ourselves, open ourselves, which is an action, it's active, so that we can receive. There's a very active form of receptivity, and I think that's what this Divine Feminine card here is telling us. To be actively receptive, to be alert, open, to stretch our boundaries, to be able to open farther, to be able to receive more. Now, that more can be actual stuff. It could be more money, sure. It could be more toys, sure. But it could also be more love. It could be more understanding, more knowledge. We could stretch ourselves to be more receptive to our intuition, the wisdom we have from the depth of our being. Now, the Divine Feminine is also the one of the deep knowing, the individual, personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, the depths of our being. All of those archetypes that swim in the waters of our unconscious are also part of that, what we often call feminine side. Now, it's the earth, it's the water. And we can be more open to that. And we stretch ourselves, as in yoga. We stretch ourselves to be more receptive. And is yoga a passive form? No, yoga is very active in its balance and in its stability. in its creating stretch and shape and line and balance and form. There's a very active nature to receptivity, and that's what this card is reminding us of. To be open, to be light. Not necessarily light as in the sunlight. We may want the moonlight, that soft light, the dark light, the gentle light. But lightness of being, as in the opposite of heaviness, the lightness of the receptive. The lightness of the empty bowl that is ready to receive. And as we are open, as we are light, we can fly, we can soar, we can take off to discover, to receive our new life. And that's what these two cards on the sides are reminding us of. When we open, when we're able to fly off, where do we go? On the left, we have the crane spirit. Now the crane, it's a beautiful crane in this card. Do you remember it? Do you remember it? This crane is a traditional symbol of luck and good fortune. In Korea, for example, if people dream of cranes, often they'll go out and buy a lottery ticket because it's the dream symbol of good luck. So are pigs, I believe. But yeah, crane spirit, success, winning, good fortune. Receiving good fortune, receiving success, receiving winning, actively receiving winning. It's the card of successful outcomes and progress. And you think progress. Now, progress, that's not a receptive thing. That's going out and doing. That's getting stuff done. It can be. But what if the real progress, the more satisfying progress, was one in which we move with the current of intention towards those experiences, towards the life that we have created energetically and placed on our river of intention. So we open to the currents and the river of intention to move towards receiving that manifestation of the experience, that manifestation of the life, the new life that we have created. We'll be getting into new life in just a moment. But that's success. And sure, that doing stuff is going to be part of that. We'll be inspired to act. We'll be inspired to do. We'll be inspired to do the thing we cannot stop ourselves from doing because we feel so inspired to do it. And those are the things that often feel the most successful for us, don't they? When we're so inspired to do something that we can't help ourselves, that we can't stop ourselves from doing it because it seems so exciting, so interesting, so enlivening. Those successes are the most delicious. Rather than the ones where we knuckle down, we put our pedal to the metal. We knuckle down, we hunker down to get something done, and then we succeed. Now, there's pleasure in that. There's pleasure in accomplishing something that way. But there's also a sense of, God, I finally got that done. Which is at the negative end of the emotional scale. Whereas, yes, I've done this magnificent thing, I've experienced this magnificent thing because I am so open and I'm flowing with my love, I'm flowing with my joy, I'm flowing with my well-being. I'm flowing with intention. That's the thing. That's the power of the crane spirit flowing from the openness of the divine openness, the divine receptivity. And on the other side, we have reincarnation. Now, okay, personally, I think this card would better have been called rebirth, because reincarnation does require death of the physical body for reincarnation, to come back in a new carnate body, carnate, meat, in new meat, yeah, to reincarnate, to get into a new meat suit. Whereas rebirth can happen within the same body. So can resurrection be happening in the same body. But rebirth, I think, is better. Yeah? We fly off into rebirth. What does this card mean? Now we see this figure flying into this very tunnel-like void, looking a little bit like what a lot of people think of, go into the light. Yeah, the spirit going into the light, into the new life. But flying through darkness, right? However, this card is opportunity to bring new life. To bring new life into what? Into anything. Into work. Into relationships. Into situations that we are involved in. Into our purpose in life. Yeah? Bring new life into our purpose. Or anything that we put our attention on. We can bring new life into that. We can bring new life into our spiritual life as well. So that's what this is. Now the reincarnation is, in this card, is bringing new life into an area or multiple areas of our life. And we do that when we are receptive to the new life. It's also creating a new life for ourselves. Yeah, creating a new life for ourselves, envisioning it. Which is living the intentional life, right? We envision the life that we want to be moving towards, and we trust that if we're open to the powerful flow of intention, we will be moving in that direction. So yes, creating the new life that our intention will line up with. It's also wisdom. Now, it's wisdom that comes from our past and from the eternal nature that we are. It comes from our past, our collective past, our ancestors. Now, that wisdom that we carry with us in our perhaps unconscious or subconscious, we have that wisdom there with us. But we also have access to the wisdom of our eternal nature, the eternal nature that we are. And this card is also part of that, opening ourselves up to receiving that wisdom from both, as we think of in this physical realm, above and below. Of course, there is no above and below in the non-physical realm because that wouldn't make sense. Yeah? But in this physical universe, we have aboves and belows. And yeah, we think of our subconscious, our unconscious as being somehow below us, and we receive the wisdom from below, from the waters, the deep waters of the oceans of our unconscious, and from the sky of the eternal nature that we are, from the heavenly sky. Just convenient terms for us to be able to understand each other, right? So, reincarnation, giving new life to our lives, to the lives that we're creating, to aspects of our lives, and to receiving wisdom as we start afresh, as we start anew. We receive new wisdom, fresh wisdom, because we are open to it, because we are receptive, actively receptive. Actively receptive to opening up further and further to receive more, to create a larger vessel. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And can you see how that worked visually as well with this circle, this disc, being the divine receptive? And then we receive and then we fly. And we don't have to choose, well, am I going to fly with the crane or fly with the new life? They're both flying simultaneously. And as we fly into new life, we are open to success. We're open to receiving good fortune, successful outcomes, a successful life. So friends, we've got 4 questions around this central card. Let's move right to that first question. The first question is, what inspires me? And I love the idea of inspiration. Now, inspiration, in spiritus, in, to breathe in, to bring in, spiritus. Spiritus actually, well, you think spirit, right? But spiritus actually originally is breath, yeah? To breathe in. In the Old Testament of the Judeo-Christian Bible, now the way the first human came into being was the divine breathed life into that being. Yeah? The breathing in of life was inspiration. So we are inspired. We received the divine. We receive the divine. And what opens us? How can we become receptive to receiving the divine? And we have 2 cards here. Wonderful, perfect cards. One is strength, and one is the 2 of swords. You'll notice we've got a lot of swords in this spread. Here we have the 2 of swords. Let's start off with strength. Strength. In a traditional Rider-Waite Smith deck, we see a female presenting figure with a lion, usually. And the female figure has either tamed the lion or is somehow causing the lion to obey the will of the female figure. Here, what do we have? We have a male presenting figure. Now, these clothes are male clothes, at least, and a tiger, which suits the Korean theme of this deck much more. There aren't any lions here in Korea. There were tigers. They're pretty much gone now, unfortunately. But the tiger is a traditional Korean animal. And in fact, in the place I used to live in Korea, called Busan, there were a couple of districts of the city in which tiger was part of the name of the district. Because there used to be tigers down there. They're gone now, but there used to be tigers down there. And both the tiger and the bear are perhaps clans that migrated into Korea. There was a bear clan and perhaps a tiger clan. Anyways, so for Korea, instead of lions, we have tigers. And still, the human and the tiger, while one doesn't seem to be showing dominance over the other, they're both there together, looking very confident. Yeah? Neither is afraid of the other. Neither is angry at the other. Neither looks like they want to attack the other. They're both coexisting very, very peacefully, very confidently, in fact. And so this is the strength card. Strength sometimes actually means strength. Yeah, Popeye, strength. Yeah, bodybuilder, strength. The strength of the physical strength of the body. It can also be a card for courage. Yeah? Inner strength, strength of character. It could be fortitude. Yeah, not only this kind of strength, but the strength of the body, like the health of the body. Not all people who have fortitude, strong health, for example, are physically strong, but they can be healthy. They have fortitude. And those things are possible. Those things are definitely possible. We live more comfortably, more easily in the world if we trust the capacities of our bodies and also of our character, the strength of our character. However, for me, the strength card is much more about inner alignment, the relationship between all aspects of ourselves. And I do this when I say that all of the time. But I think this is partially the idea of Kundalini and the chakras all being in alignment. I think that's where I'm getting this gesture from. Yeah? being in alignment from the root chakra up to the crown chakra and into the transpersonal chakras, if you believe in those. It's also in more psychological terms, yeah, perhaps in Jungian terms, the alignment of different aspects of the self. We have the ego, we have the shadow, we have the self archetype, and then we have the anima or animus, depending on our physical gender, physical sex. Yeah, a male presenting person would generally have an anima. A female presenting person would have an animus. But all of those aspects in alignment. Or more Freudian, yeah, id, ego, superego, all in alignment. Or unconscious, conscious, and eternal self, the higher self, although I don't like the idea of higher because there is no higher or lower in the non-physical. But yeah, the eternal nature we are, plus our ego, plus our unconscious, all in alignment. That's what the strength card is to me. All in good relationship. All communicating. All receiving and giving information. Strengthening one another. So, what inspires me? When I'm in that kind of alignment, I am naturally open to the inspiration of the divine and inspiration from unconscious. Yeah? The channels are open. So of course, I would naturally be inspired. I would receive my spirit. Yeah? Spiritus would be received, inspired. And then we have the Two of Swords, which is an interesting companion card to this, because the Two of Swords is generally, now in the Rider-Waite-Smith card deck, in Pamela Coleman-Smith's design of this card, she put a female presenting figure with a blindfold seated with two swords balanced with two swords balanced in front of a very, very choppy sea. I think that's what I recall when I bring that card to mind. Yeah? The sea is the emotions, choppy emotions, turbulent emotions in the background, and the figure in front is having perhaps trouble making a decision. The two air swords, the two mind swords, yeah, balancing, making decisions, choice, weighing up options. That's what this card is generally seen as. Sometimes it's seen as a catch-22, but for this reading, it looks more like it's a card of choices, a card of weighing up options. And in this card from the Buddha Tarot, we see monkeys hanging around this figure with the two swords above their heads. Still blindfolded in this card. Yeah? The two swords are above the head. And the monkeys are not afraid at all. We've got this human figure with these swords waving around. Well, we don't know if they're waving, but swords held up in the air. And the monkeys are like, what's going on? What's up with him? Or her? Or it? Or them? Or they? Now, the monkeys are like, what's up, bro? They don't seem to be very concerned. They might be curious, but not so concerned, which is interesting. So this isn't a card showing us that this figure is about to go chop off heads of monkeys or is planning on using those swords like a stick for a piñata, trying to get that monkey that's hanging from the tree. This is a card of choices. And sometimes our choices inspire us. Especially if we've been spending time trying to make a decision, right? We make it, should I do this or should I do this? Or should I do this or should I do this? In that indecisive moment or period, we have less access to inspiration. But once we've made that choice, once we've made that choice with clarity, decisively, once we've said, okay, I'm doing this, not this, and that's okay, and I'm good with my choice, then we can start opening up again. And it's making that choice can open us to receiving spirit. It's like, okay, I've chosen this. Now I can do that, or I can do this, or I can go here, or I can experience that. And we can't get that information that way if I have to do this, I could do that or that, but if I do this, I could do this or that, but what about here? If I do, but then that will, but that, yeah, we're not opening up to our inspiration. Even if we're writing pros and cons lists, we're not opening up to our inspiration very often, I don't think. At least I don't. That's all a very head thing. It's like, well, trying to rationalize my choices. But once the choice is made, we can open up again. We can be inspired once we've made that decision. That makes sense? Let's look at the second question, because this is an interesting question to move from what inspires me. Yeah? What do I receive? I'm inspired. Now let's look at the second question. In the first question, what inspires me? Yeah, inspires, receive spirit. Second question, what can I give? Now, first I receive, then I give. Life is cycles of receiving and giving. And so what can I give? Interesting answers to this question. First one is 7 of Pentacles. The second one is the Knight of Swords. Again, another swords card. So we have Pentacles and Swords, earth and air. Not completely opposite. Yeah, they can probably work together. Let's look at the 7 of Pentacles. In the 7 of Pentacles in Rider-Waite-Smith, Pixie's art, we see a figure actually very similar to the figure in this card. Yeah? A figure holding perhaps a tool of some sort in front of some bushes which have some pentacles on them that look something like maybe pumpkins or some kind of thing ripening on the vine, and the figure is waiting. Now, they're not quite ripe yet. It's the card of perseverance for some, in some senses. It's waiting for the harvest. It's having a long-term view. Now, I'm not looking for instant results. Having a long-term view, like a farmer has a long-term view. I put the seed in the ground, I water the seed, and then I know that with tending, that seed will sprout, will grow, and then produce something. Produce the child of that seed that I planted. And that takes a long-term view. We don't stamp on the ground saying, come on, you stupid seed, grow a fruit or grow a vegetable. We don't dig it up to see how well it's going. Yeah? We have a long-term view. We have patience. We wait. We have expectation that things will be fulfilled. It's a card of sustainable results. Yeah? We know with these actions, results will continue to be had. We have the card assessing progress, and being able to prune it is another aspect of this card that I sometimes forget. Yeah? As we watch our plants grow, if you've done, if you've worked in vineyards or orchards, trees can grow beyond their ability to produce large fruits. Yeah? They'll produce large fruits at the ends, but with too much leafage, they don't get enough sunlight. So it's oftentimes people who have orchards will go in and have to prune back their trees so that the entire tree gets a very good, even amount of sunlight from all angles. And that takes looking at the tree or looking at the grapevine and assessing what needs to be cut back, what needs to be pruned off. How can I bring this tree into the most robust health that I can assist it to be in. And some of that is by pruning away stuff so that others can thrive more beautifully, more perfectly, more healthfully. So that's the Seven of Coins card, the Seven of Pentacles card. What can I give? I can give my long-term view to those around me. I can share my vision. I can also give my ability to assess and prune and shape what is being created in the world. And that can be my gift to others. And then right beside this very patient card, this very waiting for stuff to happen card, waiting for the action that I laid in the past for it to come to full fruition. Right next to it we have the Knight of Swords, probably the most active suit card, court card in the deck. The Knight of Swords, the card of ambition, the card of action channeled, the card of being driven to succeed, of fast thinking. Remember, this is a sword. This is a mind suit. Fast thinking, fast acting. Quick, quick, quick. And I can give that. Because we don't want to be just the waiters, the expectors, the pruners. We also want to be the other end of that spectrum, the Knight of Swords, the active ones, the fast-thinking ones, the quick to pounce on a potential something. And if I have both of these in good balance, the Seven of Pentacles and the Knight of Swords, I am giving myself to those around me. I'm giving my talents, I'm giving my ability to create and to assess and to think and to succeed. Yeah? What can I give? I receive the Spirit and I give myself in all of my aspects. In my farmer waiting for the harvest and in my clever, quick-thinking actor in the world. My balance of Seven of Pentacles and Knight of Swords. A little bit more passive, a little bit more, well, more passive, more active. I can give all of that. Let's move on to the third question, because this is a good series of questions. Let's look at it. The third question is, where is movement needed? Wonderful movement of questions, right? Wonderful flow of questions. Where is movement needed? So we have the Ace of Swords, like I said, another swords card. And we have Temperance, a major arcana card. Yeah? So the Ace of Swords, very similar to a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The Ace of Swords, there's no hand holding the sword here, but we've got a sword piercing what looks like maybe a crown, and birds flying in the background. We've got a little bit of cloud showing, but the sword seems to perhaps be piercing the clouds. So this is a card of breakthrough. It's a card of new ideas, of mental clarity, of truth and honesty. And that's where movement could be needed. That's where we want to move forward in our ideas. Move forward with new ideas, with breakthroughs. Clearing away the clouds of confusion with that huge Ace of Swords and allowing some enlightenment to happen. An echo of, or a pair to, our inspiration, enlightenment. With mental clarity, clear mind. And a clear mind is a very mobile thing. It's a very active thing. And paired with our clear mind, our mental activity, we have temperance. Temperance, which is balance. And moderation and patience and purpose and harmony. These are all common keywords for the temperance card, right? And usually in the Rider-Waite Smith card, we see an angelic looking figure with wings and a little flower on their head, and there's a triangle on their chest, and there's a sun in the background. Temperance, and there are two cups. And defying gravity, the angel is pouring liquid between those two cups in a way that would not happen in the real world. Yeah? Water would not move from this cup to this cup like this. Whether it's coming from this cup or this cup, it wouldn't move like this. It would go, right? Or, but here we have in this temperance card something very different. This card is a rendering of a scene from the Buddha's life. The Buddha, when Buddha was Siddhartha. Yeah? This is a picture of Siddhartha after long, very intensive, brutal meditation, a very ascetic life. And in this picture, the Siddhartha is receiving milk. He's receiving a rice milk. Not cow milk, not goat milk, but rice milk. Have you ever drunk rice milk? It's very watery. It's very weak. You know? Rice milk. He's receiving rice milk from, I wrote this down. Sujata, who was the daughter of a village chieftain. He's receiving rice milk from this person, from this daughter, in recognition that the middle path is the correct path. Severe asceticism is not the correct path. Of course, being gluttonous, for example, is not the correct path either. The center path is correct. The middle path. And this is the point in the Siddhartha's life where he realizes that the middle path is the way. Not being too harsh, not being too soft, but the middle path. Now, for Siddhartha, the middle path is drinking rice milk instead of eating nothing. Okay. For us, maybe the middle path is a little less severe than that. But still, the idea is the middle path. Which is the idea of temperance, right? Not too far at this extreme, not too far at that extreme. Both, but not at the extremes in the middle. And I think that works for most things in our lives, yeah? Not too much work, not too much play, but somewhere in the middle. We play some, we work some, somewhere in the middle. So, for the activities in our life, yeah? Not too much food, not too little food, somewhere in the middle. Now, I don't really think that applies for things like love and joy. Now, on the emotional scale, I think we want to try, as best we can, to keep moving in the direction of the higher, more positive emotional states. Love, joy, gratitude, well-being, pure awareness, all of those wonderful things. We want to keep moving in that direction because there is no end to that direction. However, we're in the emotional sense, we're not saying, no, don't go towards love and joy, stay in the middle. That's not what this card is meeting. But other aspects of our life, yeah, the things we do, the things we eat, the toys we have. Not too many toys, but not too few toys. The middle path. We have enough to play with so that we are satisfied and we can do the things that we want to do, but we're not indulging in it so that we get weighed down by material objects. That's what this temperance card is. And where is movement needed? Movement is needed to move towards the center and down the center path. And movement is needed down the center of new ideas, fresh ideas, breakthroughs, clearing away the clouds to clear skies. And in concert, the middle path with a clear mental landscape. That's the direction that we want to move in and move down and through. And that's the direction, I believe, that our powerful current of intention flows through. Sorry, did I spit in your eye? Sorry. We have a fourth question. Let's move on to the fourth question. The fourth question is what changes? But before we get to that answer, let's do a quick overview. Yeah? Where did we start? We started with the oracle cards, remembering that as we open, we become divinely receptive. We open ourselves, we enlarge, no, that's not a word. We enlarge our bowls, our empty bowls, to receive more. And as we do that, we lighten ourselves and we fly off into luck and success and new life and receiving wisdom. And as we receive wisdom, remember the first question, we are inspired. And how are we inspired? What inspires us? Our alignment. All aspects of ourselves in alignment inspires us, opens us up to being able to receive inspiration, as well as making choices. Choices inspire us if made with conviction, if made with certainty, if made with yes, rather than no, yes. That inspires us. And then, so we're inspired, well, now what can I give? And I can give a balance of my entire self, my self that can plant a seed and patiently wait for it to develop and watch it and see what might need to be pruned, but be patient for it to develop, for it to mature and ripen. While, on the other hand, I'm also very quick-witted, able to move, able to shift, dodge away from incoming bullets. There won't be any incoming bullets if we are completely open to the fullness of ourselves and moving with our intention. However, we can be quick-witted, we can be quick-footed, we can weave in and out and around obstacles. And like the Knight of Swords. And we have ambition, and we have the desire to succeed and the desire to create and experience, to move forward. And so we move forward into the third question, where is movement needed? And movement is needed if first, with the Ace of Swords, clear mind. Clear mind, clearing away the clouds, receiving new ideas. And temperance, walking the middle path, moving forward with the powerful flow of intention down that middle path. So I'm moving, and as I move, I notice that some things need to change. The environment changes as we move forward, right? As time flows, the environment changes. Things need to change. If things don't change, we're in stagnation, and stagnation is death. And death does not exist. Real death does not exist. It's all transformation. But as we move forward in this physical universe with the construct of time, things change. So what needs to change? And we got another card of swords, right? The Eight of Swords clearly needs to change. And also justice. Justice, which also includes a sword, as you've noticed. The Eight of Swords, looking very much like a Rider-Waite-Smith, Pamela Coleman Smith designed Eight of Swords. Yeah, instead of a female presenting figure bound in the center, here is a male looking figure bound in the center, not blindfolded, but looking down instead, surrounded by swords. And this is the card of negative thoughts, the card of self-imposed restrictions, the card of victim mentality, the card of constraints. And we can liberate ourselves from those. We truly, truly can. Now, the female figure in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck can liberate herself if she wants to. Now, those ropes around her can be cut loose with those swords that are near her. The blindfold can then be removed. There's a way to walk outside of those swords. It's not a full cage. In this card from the Korea Tarot, the beautiful Korea Tarot, this figure can walk outside of that barrier of swords around them. If their arms if their hands or wrists are tied, they can cut their ties with those swords. Always in the Eight of Swords, it's possible to free ourselves. And we recognize that this confinement is self-created. It's created by our thoughts, by our beliefs, by our misunderstandings. So what needs to change? What needs to change is the thoughts. What needs to change are the thoughts that have gotten us into this imprisoned sensation, this feeling of being bound and caught and trapped in the middle of negative thoughts and negative beliefs and fears and worries and misunderstandings. We can liberate ourselves, and that's one thing that needs changing. Now, it's interesting that the next thing that needs changing is justice. Justice, we usually see a figure seated with one hand holding a sword pointing up and the other hand holding the scales of justice, seated in front of a curtain. And this is the card of justice, of truth, of balance for me. Cause and effect. Yeah, I do this to this, and then this happens. I do this, and then this happens. Yeah, cause and effect. It's a card of also equilibrium, balance again. However, in this card, what do we see? We see Siddhartha again. Now, Siddhartha is sitting on a rock in front of a river. Interestingly, one shoe has been taken off. Now, one bare foot has been raised into what would be a cross-legged position if the other leg were not still down touching the ground with a shoe on. And Siddhartha has his long hair grabbed in one hand and the other hand is raised with a knife in this gesture, yeah, looking like he's about to cut off his hair. And that's exactly what he's doing. Now, this is the time when Siddhartha cuts off his hair, signifying, symbolizing, giving up his life as a prince. Now, that long flowing hair is a symbol of his family ties and traditions, what his parents gave him. One thing his parents gave him is his title as a prince. It's also the card for searching for a path and keeping to it. Yeah, selecting a path and keeping to it. Justice to self. We make a decision, I'm going to go this way and I'm going to keep with it. I have a sense of justice to my own decisions for myself. I don't cheat myself of going the direction that I've decided for myself. Does that make sense? That's another aspect of this justice card in this pack, I believe, in this deck. Justice for self, not only for other people, but for ourselves. So I decide I'm going to walk that middle path. And after I've made that decision, my justice to myself is to keep on the middle path. Walk it until it plays out in some way. Instead of waffling and wobbling, I go this way, no, well, just this time out, well, just this time out. Or, no, this isn't hard enough, I'm going to do this. Or, oh, I just want to do this. Oh, no, that's too, I'm being too what? I'm eating too much food. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to stop eating all food, for example. Yeah, if I decide to walk the middle path, I do that. For meditation, for me, a meditation practice. When I teach meditation and in my own practice, I choose a practice. And I stick to that practice for at least 6 months, sometimes a year. I don't go with it for a week and think, this isn't really working for me, I'm going to do something else. No, I've made the decision, I'm going to go with this practice. Be it metta, loving kindness, breath awareness, or a mantra, or another form of meditation. Now, I choose the meditation I'm going to do, and I stick with it. I treat my decision with justice. And then after 6 months or a year, I change to a new practice, because having variety in meditation, I believe, and from what I was taught, is also very helpful on the path of meditation. But it's not changing every day or even every week or every month. You go for a long time until you've really rooted yourself again in that practice. And then change it. Change it because it's not working, or change it because it is working. And it's time to shake things up a little bit. So that's another way of thinking of justice, is justice for the path that I've chosen. So what needs to change? I need to be more just to myself and treat my actions, my decisions with more justice. Be more true to myself. And also let myself out of the trap that I put myself in with my thoughts and my beliefs. And in that way, I open myself to receiving more. Does that make sense to you? Can you see how these questions and answers have flown back into the beginning of opening ourselves up to receive, and becoming light enough to fly into success and new life? Without being weighed down with the burden of negative thought, without being weighed down by indecision. Being able to open ourselves with trust and justice and truth, and moving with the powerful flow of intention. Does that make sense to you? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I really would. If it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And friends, if you're still here, thank you, and hit the like button so I know that you're still here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I upload videos. I'm trying to do at least 2 a week now. One Rider-Waite-Smith-based reading like this one, and then one Tarot de Marseille or Antique Italian deck reading, which is shorter and will be in response to this reading. So you can get notifications of when that is uploaded too. Also, share this with anyone who you think might get benefit from hearing it. Yeah? Share this on other platforms if you like. And comment below. I would truly love to hear from you. Oh, and friends, if you're interested in a reading, a private reading from me, contact me on Instagram. I'll put a link in the description box below, so you can go hop over to Instagram and send me a direct message there if you want a private reading. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.